You ever have one of those mornings that feels just off? Like the universe tugged your collar and whispered, "Heads up, champ, today's the beginning of the end?" That was me. Tuesday. Crisp air. Toast slightly burnt, just the way I liked it. Even the coffee machine gave me a solid pour without spitting steam like a demon. Normal. Too normal. My name's Cole. 37, software engineer, homeowner, father to a golden retriever who thinks she owns the HOA. And until a few months ago, husband to a woman who smiled like she'd never heard a fly. Her name was Naomi. Now, Naomi had this habit. Every morning, she'd put on lipstick before brushing her teeth. Said she liked to start the day with color. Weird? Sure. But cute in that. I love her even when she sings off-key in the shower way. That morning, though? No lipstick. No humming. No Naomi. Just a sticky note on the fridge. Went for a walk. Be back before your call with Amsterdam. Love you. Love you. I stared at that like it was written in invisible ink. I didn't think much of it. I had my quarterly with our Euro partners in 20, so I shrugged it off. She walked. That was fine. Good for her heart, her head, her stress. What I didn't know was that she wasn't walking. She was driving, with someone else in the passenger seat. The day unfolded like any other. Endless Zoom boxes filled with forced smiles and poor Wi-Fi. Naomi came back around noon, her cheeks flushed like she'd been jogging. She kissed me on the head, handed me a protein shake, and asked if I'd remembered to RSVP to her cousin's wedding. She was present. Polite. Almost professional. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come howling through the front door. It tiptoes in wearing perfume and asking about gluten-free catering. I didn't catch on then. That part comes later. But something was off. And the first crack didn't show up until that night, when I noticed the guest's toothbrush was missing. You don't misplace a toothbrush unless you're brushing someone else's teeth with it. That night, I lay in bed beside Naomi, listening to the rhythmic click of her scrolling through her phone. She laughed once, low and soft, and I felt something inside me twitch. Funny meme? I asked. She nodded, locked the phone, rolled over. Just a work threat. Work. Sure. I kissed her on the shoulder. She didn't kiss back. I lay there in silence, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above like it was keeping secrets. Something had shifted. And the worst part? I wasn't sure if I was paranoid, or if my gut was finally screaming loud enough to be heard. The thing about suspicion? It doesn't slam you all at once, it drips. Like a leaky faucet you try to ignore until you realize the sink's overflowing. The next morning, Naomi left early. Spin class, she said, tossing on leggings and that gray tank top she usually reserved for grocery runs. I'd never seen her go to spin. Hell, we didn't even have a gym membership anymore. You going with anyone? I asked casually, pouring cereal. She didn't even flinch. Julie, from HR. Julie, from HR. A woman I'd never met, never seen, and who I'm fairly certain lives on Naomi's fictional coworkers list right next to Tina from payroll and Gary, the janitor with philosophical insights. Tell Julie I said hi, I muttered. She laughed, tight and clipped. Don't be jealous. Jealous? I was insulted. Not because she was lying. I didn't have hard proof yet, but because she was doing it so poorly. It's one thing to cheat. It's another to do it like I'm some background character in your life story. I waited 5 minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys. I wasn't proud of it, but I tailed her. Yup, full private eye mode, hoodie, sunglasses, even took the Subaru so I wouldn't look suspicious. She didn't go to the gym. She drove 10 minutes across town to a park, and parked. A few minutes later, a black Audi pulled up behind her. He got out, tall, athletic, confident stride like he jogged for fun and didn't hate himself after. I didn't recognize him, but Naomi did. They didn't hug, didn't kiss, but they didn't have to. It was the way she leaned in when she talked, the way her hand grazed his chest as she laughed at something he said. The kind of body language that says, we've crossed lines. This isn't the first time. And no, I'm not sorry. I snapped a picture. Not to confront her. Not yet. I just needed to know I wasn't crazy. Later that evening, she came home with a smoothie and a little too much cheer. Julie made me laugh so hard. I nearly fell off the bike, she said. Tell her I'm glad she's keeping your core strong, I replied. She froze, just a flicker. A glitch in the matrix. Then she smiled. You're in a mood today. You have no idea, I thought. That night, while she was in the shower, probably washing off someone else's cologne, I opened her laptop. She had a passcode, which was new. But she forgot one thing. iCloud. I didn't even have to dig. There it was. A synced text from a number named Simply C. You smell like Sunday mornings. Can't wait till we don't have to hide. I didn't take a screenshot. Didn't forward it to myself. I closed the laptop and sat back. Because now I knew. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't a gut feeling. It was a reality. Naomi was having an affair, and I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Because if you're going to play chess with someone who thinks you're too stupid to even know you're on the board, you wait, you smile, and you plan your next move. There's a moment when you know someone's betrayed you, where your brain tries to hit rewind. It scans old memories like a detective at a crime scene. Was it that weekend in Napa? The girls' trip to Seattle? That Wednesday, she came home humming with a glow no yoga class ever gave anyone. Turns out, the signs were always there. They just weren't lit up until I flipped the switch. 3 days after I found the message from C, Naomi announced she'd be out of town for a training summit. 2 nights. Hotel. Company sponsored. I'll bring you back something, she said, grabbing her roller suitcase like a pro. Oh, I'm sure you will, I muttered under my breath. She didn't hear it, or pretended not to. That night, I waited. Sat on the couch, sipping whiskey I didn't even like, laptop open. I had her calendar up on one side, her recent browser history on the other. Easy stuff. She'd synced it all on her home network. She'd booked a spa treatment. Massage for 2. Reservation at a steakhouse. Not exactly the usual corporate team building. I leaned back, let it all wash over me like bad background music. You want to know when it really hit? When I looked at the timestamp on her hotel confirmation and matched it to the exact time she'd sat across from me at dinner, poking at her salad and saying, "Work's been exhausting lately." She lied to my face like it was breathing. So I made a decision. I called my friend Mason. He's got a drone, used to film real estate videos. I just said, "You up for a road trip?" and didn't explain much. He owed me a favor after that thing with his ex and the boat ramp incident. Long story. We drove out that night. I knew which hotel. I knew which room. She'd been sloppy, used our joint email to book the spa, probably forgot it was still linked. We arrived just after 8 p.m. Mason flew the drone up, hovered outside the 10th floor like a tiny, judgmental satellite. We didn't catch anything graphic, thank God, but we saw enough. Naomi, robe, wine, and Mr. C, shirtless, feeding her strawberries on a balcony like they were the prom king and queen of Betrayal High. Mason whistled. Dude, that's wow. Yup. I took the controller, snapped a few stills, then landed the drone. Not because I needed more evidence, but because I had everything I needed. I didn't rage, didn't cry. I just stared at the screen for a while. Then I smiled. Because it was official now. The charade was over. The performance was done. And she had no idea the second act was mine. By the time Naomi and her tan Romeo were clinking wine glasses on the hotel balcony, I'd already started laying the foundation for my response. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to sob into a pillow. This wasn't high school heartbreak. This was a betrayal by the woman who knew where I kept my emergency key, my social security number, and the exact ratio of cream to coffee that made me feel human in the mornings. So, I did what any man with a cracked heart and a fully operational mind would do. I got methodical. The first thing I did was copy the drone footage. I made 3 versions, one on a hard drive, one in a cloud folder labeled tax stuff, and one on a USB drive I taped under the kitchen drawer. Not for revenge porn. Not for some dramatic reveal. Just insurance. Leverage. Evidence. I'm not the kind of guy who throws a punch, but I do like having one cocked and ready. Then I made a list. 1 lawyer. 2 locks. 3 finances. 4 friends. That last one. That was the tricky part. Friends split in a divorce like assets. Some follow loyalty, others follow comfort. And some follow the one who throws the better parties. I knew Naomi would work the charm offensive hard when the truth came out. But I also knew something else. I had time. 2 days before her business trip, I'd set up a meeting with a divorce attorney. A good one. The kind that made corporate executives panic at the sound of their own signatures. He was calm, confident, and appropriately bored by my story until I slid a few photos across his desk. His eyebrows ticked up. You've already done more work than half the clients I see after 6 months of separation. I'm not here to flinch, I said. Then let's talk strategy. We talked. We covered the house, the joint accounts, the 401k, and, most important, my golden retriever, Daisy. If Naomi thought she was walking away with that dog, she'd better bring an army and a good therapist. When Naomi returned Sunday evening, I greeted her with all the enthusiasm of a store greeter at 9:01 p.m. "Trip go well?" I asked, peering over the top of my book. She looked surprised, maybe even disappointed that I wasn't probing. "Yeah," she said quickly. "Yeah, it was really productive." "Glad to hear it," I replied, and turned the page without looking up. That threw her off. No accusations. No dramatic tension. Just indifference. That's the thing people don't prepare for, the moment when you're not mad anymore. When the fuse is burned down and you're just waiting to hear the final pop. I gave her just enough rope. Over the next 2 weeks, Naomi wove herself deeper into her own trap. Late meetings. New perfume. Whispered phone calls. I nodded, smiled, and offered to pick up dinner more often so she could relax. One night, she said she needed a weekend away for a wellness retreat. I kissed her on the cheek and told her to enjoy it. Then I changed the locks. Yeah, changed them. I wasn't subtle about it either. I left the new keys on the counter with a note that read, "Sometimes, wellness means cutting out what's making you sick. Hope the fresh air helps. Cole." She called at 1:14 a.m. Sunday morning. I let it ring out. Let her stew in confusion. Then I texted back, "Your key doesn't work because this isn't your house anymore." "Naomi, what are you talking about?" "Me." I filed. "You'll get the papers Monday. The lawyer says hello." "Naomi, you're being crazy. We can talk about this." "Me. We already did. You just forgot I was in the room when we did it." I knew what she was expecting, a meltdown, a scene, maybe even a midnight begging session. Instead, she got silence. 2 days later, I sent a friendly email to a few mutual friends, the kind who always played Switzerland. I didn't give them the whole saga. Just a short message. "Hey folks, just a heads up, Naomi and I are separating. There are some complicated reasons I won't drag you into, but I wanted to be honest about it. If you hear rumors, know this. I didn't cheat. I didn't leave. I just stopped pretending." I ended it with a quote. Something classy, but sharp. Some people build homes. Some just decorate them until they find a better listing. See, I won't say I enjoyed watching the fallout, but I'll admit there was something deeply satisfying about reclaiming my peace without ever raising my voice. Naomi tried to win the narrative, of course. She told a few friends that I'd emotionally checked out, that I was too cold, too distant, too boring. But funny thing, when people start connecting dots, they stop believing in your dotted line excuses. Turns out, a lot of folks had noticed C. They just hadn't wanted to be the one to tell me. And now that they knew I knew, they switched sides faster than a bandwagon fan during playoffs. The revenge wasn't in yelling or exposing her or some over-the-top stunt. It was in this. I took everything back quietly. The home, the dog, my name, my dignity. And I left Naomi with exactly what she'd chased so hard. A man who fed her strawberries and wore guilt like it was designer cologne. Meanwhile, I was already building something better. Not out of bitterness. Out of clarity. There's something poetic about watching a person try to spin a web in a room where the windows have already been blown out. Naomi still believed she had control. That if she just said the right words, cried the right tears, she could reel me back in long enough to either win sympathy or stage a comeback. But here's the thing about bridges that get torched, they don't rebuild themselves. And I wasn't the same man who once stayed up late Googling how to reconnect with a distant spouse. That version of me died somewhere between the drone footage and the steakhouse reservation for two. Monday morning, she finally received the envelope. Certified. Sign here so you can't say you never got it. My lawyer was a master of these moments. Inside, divorce papers, the itemized list of shared property, my terms. Clean. Surgical. No melodrama. No begging. Just the truth, stapled and signed. I knew the exact moment she opened it because my phone lit up like the 4th of July. Naomi, 8:42 a.m. We need to talk. In person. Naomi, 8:43 a.m. Cole, please. Naomi, 8:44 a.m. I didn't mean for this to happen. It just happened. That last message nearly made me laugh. It just happened. Like she tripped and fell into a 6-month affair with a guy who uses hair gel unironically. I didn't respond. I was already in my car, driving to the storage unit I'd rented 2 weeks earlier. Half her things were already packed. I'd moved methodically, like I was disarming a bomb, quiet, focused, careful not to cut the wrong wire. At noon, she showed up at the house. I watched from the upstairs window as she stood on the porch, staring at the door like it might open out of guilt. It didn't. Daisy, my golden retriever, wagged her tail from the top of the stairs. I swear, even the dog knew something was off. Naomi used to be her favorite. Now she just tilted her head, confused. Naomi rang the bell. Then she knocked. Then she called. Naomi, 12:08 p.m. Cole, please. Just let me explain. I sent her a single text. I already know. And there's nothing left to explain. She stood there for another full minute. Then finally walked away, heels clicking like punctuation marks to a story that had already ended. 3 days later, I got an email from him. The other man. Mr. C. His real name? Carson. Of course it was. Sounds like someone who sells overpriced candles or gives TED Talks about motivation. Subject line, hey, can we talk? I almost deleted it on principle, but curiosity got the better of me. Carson's email. Hey Cole, I know this is awkward, but I wanted to reach out directly. I didn't know Naomi was married at first. When I found out, I asked her if things were over between you two. She said yes. I just want to say I didn't mean to step on your toes or hurt you. If there's any bad blood, I'd like to clear it up. I respect you, man. Hope we can all move on peacefully. I read it twice. He respected me? That's rich. The guy who snuck around with my wife behind spa menus and hotel towels now wanted a handshake and closure like we were two groomsmen patching things up before a wedding. I didn't reply, but I forwarded the email to my lawyer. Not for legal purposes, just because I knew he'd enjoy the irony. Now, here's where things got theatrical. That weekend, Naomi tried to hold a damage control brunch. Invited some of our mutual friends, made quiche, lit a candle that probably smelled like guilt and cinnamon. She told them I had grown cold over the last year, that I'd stopped trying, and that the affair wasn't physical at first, it was emotional support. Classic. Problem was, I had receipts. Not the gossipy kind, the cold, undeniable kind. Reservations. Spa charges. Her browser history. The drone video. And of course, the text thread where she told Carson. Can't wait until he finally files. I need to breathe again. When I heard about the brunch, I didn't crash it. Too easy. Too obvious. Instead, I posted one picture. A photo of Daisy and me sitting in the backyard, the drone remote on the table, and a caption. Turns out peace is quieter when you stop entertaining liars. I didn't tag her. I didn't even hint at her name. Didn't need to. Within 2 hours, half the guest list from her brunch had either texted me or unfollowed her. Funny how the truth doesn't need a spotlight, it just needs one window cracked open. The final move? That was poetic justice, the quiet kind. See, Naomi had always dreamed of owning her own business, a yoga studio. She even had a GoFundMe link saved in her bookmarks, plans drafted, spreadsheets named Studio_Vision_2025. She needed a business partner, a financial backer. She pitched the idea to Carson. And guess what? He ghosted her. She didn't know I knew that. But someone close to her let it slip. Carson wasn't looking to build a life. He wanted the thrill, not the mortgage. So Naomi was left with a handful of lies, a few half-hearted allies, and no more cards to play. Me? I took my peace, my dog, and my perfectly restored house, and I started over. And I slept better than I had in years. Because revenge doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it's just living well. Without her. You ever notice how people only apologize when their options run out? 3 weeks after the divorce papers landed in Naomi's hands like a dead bird on the welcome mat, she finally stopped pretending she was winning. The brunches dried up. The group texts went quiet. Even Carson, her lean, latte-sipping savior, disappeared like a magician's rabbit once the applause died. That's when she showed up again. This time, no tight dresses or heels clicking like she owned the sidewalk. No fake smiles. No smoothie in hand. Just a gray hoodie, faded jeans, and the face of someone who realized the train they were riding had no brakes and no destination. I was sitting on the porch, coffee in one hand, Daisy curled at my feet, when I saw her approach. She looked unsure, like maybe I'd turned the grass against her too. Cole, she said, her voice soft, like she was afraid the wind might interrupt. I sipped. Let her sit in it a second. Then I gave her a nod. Naomi, can we talk? Depends, I said. You bringing closure or excuses? She paused. That one hit. I owe you an apology. I raised an eyebrow. That's interesting. Because last I heard, I was cold, distant, and emotionally unavailable. If I had $1 for every time you said I was too comfortable being boring, I could have hired someone to ignore you professionally. She looked down. I deserve that. No, I said, you deserved better. But you settled for a side character in your own drama. That's not my fault. She sat on the bottom porch step, hands folded, eyes searching the deck like maybe the wood would give her the words. I don't expect you to forgive me, she started. Good. I didn't know how lost I was. There it is. The classic line from the Cheaters songbook, right between "it wasn't planned" and "you were just so good to me, it scared me." Lost people don't book hotel rooms, I said flatly. She winced. I thought Carson would fill something I was missing, she whispered. But he didn't. You ever consider, I said, setting down my cup, that maybe what you were missing wasn't something a man could fix? That maybe it wasn't about me or him or anyone else, but just you, standing in your own shadow. She blinked. Hard. Like that one connected deeper than she expected. Silence sat between us for a full minute. I didn't feel it. I'd learned by now that silence is sometimes the loudest truth. I miss what we had, she said finally. I nodded slowly. Yeah, so do I. Her eyes lifted. Hopeful. But here's the thing, I added. I don't miss you. Not anymore. I miss the idea of us, the version I thought we were. The version where we were teammates. Where I was enough. Where you didn't look at your phone like it had better things to offer than the man you build a life with. She looked like she wanted to cry. But nothing came. Maybe she was past tears. Or maybe she'd cried them all for someone else. You know what really broke me? I asked. She shook her head. It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't even the lying. It was that you planned it. You had time to change your mind. You had 100 exit ramps, and you took none of them. You smiled at me in the morning, kissed me goodnight, and in between, you were calculating betrayal like it was a budget. Her shoulders folded inward. I almost felt bad. Almost. I told myself I was just looking for happiness, she said. No, I replied. You were looking for a shortcut, and you ended up in a ditch. She stood, wobbly, as if words alone could knock her off balance. I'll go, she said quietly. But I needed to tell you, you didn't deserve any of it. I stared at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I didn't see my wife. I saw a stranger wearing her face. Take care, Naomi, I said. I hope you find whatever it is you're chasing. I really do. She nodded once and walked away. Daisy, loyal as ever, didn't even twitch. When the sound of her car disappeared, I leaned back in my chair and let the breeze carry off what was left of the conversation. That night, I had dinner with a few friends. Real ones. The kind who didn't pick sides, they picked character. Mason was there, the drone guy, along with his fiancée, and a couple others who'd seen the cracks before I did. So, Mason said, biting into his burger. Naomi came crawling? More like drifting, I replied. Like a balloon losing air and direction. He laughed. You say anything savage? Nope. Just the truth. That's what burns more. Anyway, we clinked glasses. Not to spite. Not to revenge. To resilience. That weekend, I started redoing the office, turned it into a workshop. Wood, tools, paint. Nothing fancy. Just something that reminded me I could still build. Because that's the real into a story like this. Not some dramatic monologue. Not a viral social media post. Not even the day the papers are finalized. The real end is the moment you stop surviving the betrayal and start living beyond it. Naomi's chapter in my life wasn't erased. Just filed under lessons. Because some stories don't need revenge. They just need an ending you write yourself. 2 weeks after Naomi's porchside apology, just as the dust seemed to settle and life started to feel like mine again, I got a message. Not from her. No, this was from his side. A name popped up on my phone, Sabrina J. At first, I didn't recognize it. But the subject line hit harder than caffeine on an empty stomach. You don't know me, but I know Carson. I opened it, eyes narrowed. Asterisk, hi Cole. I'm Sabrina. I was with Carson for 4 years. I didn't know about you until recently. He lied to both of us. He told me you and Naomi were separated, that she was moving out. I just found out he proposed to her last week. Asterisk. I blinked. Reread it. I thought you should know. I left him. But I figured if anyone deserved the full truth, it was you. So that was her redemption arc, except a proposal from the same guy who had someone else waiting in the wings. Poetic, really. I replied briefly. Appreciate it. Sounds like we both got lucky, just took the long way around. Cole. Sabrina and I never spoke again. We didn't need to. Some truths stand alone, no echo required. Friends warned me she might come back again. People like Naomi don't vanish quietly. They stage returns. Sure enough, a month later, I saw her name on the RSVP list for Mason's engagement party. Mutual friends. Neutral ground. She had every right to be there. But so did I. I walked in wearing confidence like a tailored suit. Crisp shirt. Clean shave. Peace in my pocket. And who do I see within 10 minutes of arriving? Naomi. Standing by the drink table. Alone. Not a ring on her hand. So much for the proposal. She looked at me the way someone looks at a window they wish they never closed. Hey, she said, cautious. Hey. I replied. Easy. Have you been? I sipped my drink. Light. How about you? She hesitated. Figuring things out. Must be a crowded intersection, I said with a smile. She blinked, half laughed. You look good. I feel good, I said. It's amazing what happens when you take the trash out. A few friends nearby heard that. One of them choked on their mimosa. Naomi smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That's when Mason walked over, clapped me on the back, and said, still the sharpest guy in the room, come grab a cigar, man. I walked away without looking back, because I didn't need to anymore. 6 months post-divorce, I took a solo trip. No revenge. No rebound. Just a coastline, a small cabin, and a stack of books. One morning, I stood on the porch, coffee in hand, and realized I hadn't thought about Naomi once the entire week. Not even in passing. That's the real revenge, if you want to call it that. Not the drone, not the locks, not the frozen expression on her face when the door didn't open. It's the silence she left behind, the kind I filled with peace instead of pain. Some scars don't scream. They fade. Quietly. Gracefully. You just have to let them. They say revenge is best served cold. Nah. Revenge is best served unnoticed. It's waking up to a dog who still loves you. It's rebuilding a space with your own hands. It's sitting at a dinner table where laughter lives again. It's your ex seeing you thrive and knowing they no longer occupy space in your world. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's the last laugh you never have to tell out loud. Naomi's chapter is closed. Carson's was never really opened. Sabrina got her freedom. I got my peace. And now? Now I'm just a guy with a scar that doesn't hurt anymore. A man who was broken. Until he realized he was never made of glass in the first place. Just steel that hadn't been tested. And now? Now I bend for no one.